kind of busy and I'm not sure where the eyes should settle. So I would crop just a little bit off the top and probably quite a bit off the bottom, making this probably a landscape shot. That would focus the viewer on the path of the orange color and the vortex just under it. And to give you an idea, just a tiny bit off the top for those here, I'm using a laser pointer. And then off the bottom, I would probably crop from about this point all the way across. And again, that would highlight this swirl and that vortex and let your eyes rest there a little longer.
The title is Fire and Ice by Amy Rudowitz, 23 points.
Most of you are going to notice tonight that we're going to, most of our suggestions might be just a simple crop on how, that's all it takes sometimes to make the picture a little bit better. But some of you, if you might want to just take your hands, like once we're talking, maybe take a little off the top, a little off the sides, just take your hands and just kind of hold it over top of the photograph, and then you can kind of get a better idea of what we're talking about, maybe? Okay. On this one, it's kudos to the photographer for seeing this magnificently formed tree on such a foggy day. Most people would have gone right past it and not noticed the beauty of its surroundings. The tree is dead center in the photo, but in this case, this composition works perfectly. The subtle background accentuates the dark tree trunk and delicate tree branches. I like that the sun is just trying to break through the fog directly behind the tree. The moody quality of this photo is wonderful.
This is Foggy Morning in the Metro Parks by Lance Mayer, 24 points, honorable mention.
This is a great capture of that seal. Sometimes seals are on the move, which makes getting a good photo difficult. The image shows excellent use of shutter speed to freeze the motion and get sharp details of the seal. Also, good use of aperture keeps the seal in focus while blurring the background. There is a nice dynamic flow of the seal within the frame. Its head, body, and one leg and tail are all visible. One suggestion for the photographer might be to consider cropping up from the bottom a touch and a touch from the left. This would eliminate the white bar on the bottom and give the image a bit more impact. The head of the seal seems to be in the shade. Unfortunately, there's nothing the photographer could have done about that except to keep shooting.
This is Galapagos Baby Seal by Sandy Tushner, 21 points.
This is an excellent use of selective focus. You have no doubt where the photographer wants your eyes to go, and that's on that marble and sharpened focus right there in front. It's very well done. I love the colors in this. As a suggestion to improve it, I would suggest playing with the angle to shoot this and see if you can eliminate that washed out white spot under the in focus marble. Remember, your eyes are always drawn to the lightest part of the photograph, and that white blurry spot is the lightest part, and it's distracting you from looking at the marble.
The title is Goblet of Marbles by Renee Lucas, 23 points.
The photographer's timing couldn't have been more perfect. Wow, what a great set of teeth. The expression on this tiger's face is priceless. The focus is nice and sharp, so much so that one can even see every whisker. I am guessing that the exposure was a challenge, but the maker of this photo did a fantastic job capturing this tiger. And oh, that background bokeh is wonderful and provides a beautiful frame for this magnificent beast. Outstanding composition too.
This is Hear Me Roar by Amy Rudowitz, 24 points, honorable mention.
Wow, what impact. The photographer of this image was in the right place at the exact fraction of a second to capture this image. A fast shutter speed froze the motion of the surfer and the wave just as it was about to roll over him. Composition spot on. Placing the surfer in position to anticipate the wave rolling over him and in position to still be visible to the photographer and ultimately us. I can almost feel the adrenaline of the surfer. What a rush that must be. The beautiful aquamarine color of the water is complemented dramatically by the surfer and his clothes. I would have been excited to see and photograph this action. Excellent work by the photographer.
The title is I See the Light, Bonsai Pipeline, North Shore, Oahu by Diane Glatzer. 24 points, honorable mention.
Though it's a little soft, it's still a nice capture of the owl. I don't mind the foliage in the front of the owl. Some people might object to that, but I think it adds a little bit of a secretive look to the photograph. The photographer followed the rule of thirds, and I know in our beginners classes and things we stress that a lot, but in this case I don't think you should have. I would crop off half the left side and eliminate a lot of that bright area. Again, as I referred to in the last photograph, your eyes are always drawn to the light areas of a photograph, and some of those hot spots in the upper left are just a little bit distracting. Overall, nice job though.
This photo is Inniswood Garden Owl by Sandy Tushner, 22 points.
The exposure for this photo was very well done. It can be difficult to capture such nice detail in lace curtains, especially if they're in front of a window, without blowing out the delicate designs, and I've done that before. The maker also did a nice job of maintaining detail in the pink lampshade tube. The reflections in the brass teapot are intriguing and playful. By photographing the table at an angle instead of straight on adds visual interest to this photo.
This is J.E. Reeves' Home by Wendy Kohler, 22 points.
Wow. This image looks to me like it was created by a professional animal photographer at work in his or her studio. The composition immediately drew me right to the eyes of the dog. The fine detail in the fur shows excellent use of shutter speed and aperture. The cool colors of the background perfectly complement the warm colors of the dog. The dog looks healthy and full of life. And yet there's a certain feeling of sadness in the image. The photographer certainly knows how to create a compelling animal image. Maybe it's time for him or her to go into the business.
This is My Buddy Scooby-Doo, North Shore, Oahu by Diane Glatzer, 26 points, second place.
This is an interesting perspective, and it's good that the photographer was able to notice it. I would suggest playing with your focus and apertures a bit to try to soften the details of the house, because that seems to be as sharp in focus as anything else. So I'm not sure if the house is the focus or the rack we're peering through. So adjust your aperture, open up a bit, make the house a little bit blurry, but still let us see that it's a house. And also on my screen and here on these also appears a little bit yellow. So if you know how to adjust color balance, I think I would tone down the yellow in the photograph just a bit.
The title is Portal to the Past by Jerry Pano, 20 points.
My husband and I went to the zoo 2 years ago and only saw about 4 sleeping animals. Not only did the photographer get to see a real lion, it was standing up and posing too. What a magnificent looking beast. The little branches at the bottom of this photo add some nice interest to the foreground. The variation in the color of his mane and the tuft of fur on the top of his head makes him look even more majestic. He looks to be slightly out of focus, but this can be corrected if the maker knows how to use a sharpening program. My only other suggestion would be to crop a bit off the top of this photo.
The title is Proud by Kathy Pereksta. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. 21 points.
This image captures the action, color, and excitement of a rodeo. A high shutter speed froze the action. 3 of the horse's hooves are actually off the ground. The timing was perfect to capture the young lady at the peak of her performance, highlighting her strength and skill. The shutter speed combined with aperture capture every detail, with no part being blown out or lost in blackness. The photographer did everything possible to create an excellent image. However, the people in the bleachers are so close to the action that they become distracting. The only thing to do really would be to try to capture the action that is not right next to its background. That would allow for selective use of aperture to blur the background. Overall, this is an excellent image that makes me want to enjoy and photograph a rodeo. Well done.
This photo is Rodeo Rider by Wendy Kohler, 22 points.
For a beginner, I think this is a very well done portrait. You've captured kind of a pensive look in the lady's face, and it just says something about her personality. 2 things. If you are using flash or constant lights to light this, I would try to eliminate or minimize that hot spot in her forehead a little bit. It's a little bit distracting. Second, crop in on the right to eliminate that small arm of the chair showing. I know it's a nitpicky detail, but if you're trying to, learn things, look at the edges of your photographs and try to eliminate things that are distracting. So I would crop just enough to take that chair out, and then I might crop in a little bit just from the left to balance the photo again, since I took a little bit off the right. But again, for a beginner, this is a well-done portrait.
The title is Soft Smile by Colleen Lasky, 24 points, honorable mention.
Is Colleen here tonight? No? I was just going to tell her that we did this in one of the classes, the environmental portraiture class, like out in the police training room, and I had my constant light on. My first time I used it, and I had the students use it. And if she is here, I would definitely get Rochelle that picture, because that one I thought was really nice. Thought she did a nice job. For first time, it was like their first time doing their portraits. So they did a good job, yeah. Okay, what a sweet story photo. When these 2 kids are in their 60s, they will always remember the fun they had in the fountains on a hot summer day. This is such a lively photo, and I really enjoyed looking at it. One could almost hear the fountains splashing on the pavement as the children laugh while running through the many arches of water. The reflections in the pool water on the left are wonderful, and the light hitting the arches of the water add an element of vibrancy to the photo. In my opinion, this photo could be made even stronger if the sidewalk at the top and the little boy on the right were cropped out, leaving the little girl in that bright pink swimsuit as the main focus of the photo. Try taking your hands to block out the top sidewalk and the little boy. That little girl commands attention. This is an outstanding photo. To me, it was just lively and fun. I just really enjoyed looking at it. And I really liked it.
The title is Summertime Fun by Kathy Perexta, 23 points.
Composition, detail, and uniqueness of this image of a red panda create strong impact. Congratulations to the photographer for capturing something completely different. The eye, the whiskers, the details in the fur, the separation of the subject and background. All of these show exceptional use of shutter speed and aperture. The cool colors of the background complement beautifully the warm colors of the animal. The snow hints at the cold climate of the Himalayas, which is the red panda's native habitat. This is a wonderful portrait of a red panda that any nature photographer would be proud of.
The title is The Wonders of Falling Snow by Eric Botsky, and I'm excited to say it got a perfect score of 27
Wow.
points.
Is Eric here
Congratulations.
tonight? Otherwise, Eric is not here
Oh, he's
tonight.
going to be disappointed. No? Well, I meant not being here to accept his award. Getting a perfect score is not easy to do. There's a whole lot of us never had that happen, so that's pretty cool.
This is a pretty nice still life. You have nice focus and colors in the flower. The thing about still lifes is they're really hard to do. Most people don't realize that until they start trying it. And I say that because when you're doing a still life, you are in control of everything, and anything that somebody might perceive as a mistake pops out at you. So I'm going to talk about cropping again, and I know I've done that a lot. This photo does need some cropping. When you barely crop off the edges of the leaves or the edge of anything when you're doing a photograph, and it's just you barely do that, it tends to look like a mistake. So if you're going to crop into the leaves in this or around the edge of any photograph, do it drastically so it makes it look like that's what you intended to do. And that's what needs to be done here. You need to crop in more from the left to really crop into those leaves. And if you do that, then crop in to the right and get rid of some of the leaf over there to balance it. I don't think you need to show the vase because all you're showing is the very top and you're cropping into the leaves there. So crop up from the bottom and then eliminate that. When you have a photograph and you're not sure, crop in and sit back and look at it. And then after a minute or two, crop some more and look again. And then crop again, and at some point you're going to go, whoa, that's too far. Then you go back to the previous crop, and that's probably close to where you want to be. So this is a very nicely done, but I mean, the idea is very nicely done. Your execution needs a little bit more work. So go and crop this a little bit and play with it until you get to what you think it should be. And I think with some cropping, it'll be a very nice photograph of these flowers.
The title is Valentine's Flowers by Renee Lucas, 21 points.
The placement of this bright green lizard is perfect in this photo. The maker put the lizard off to the right of the photo, which adds visual excitement. The texture of the tree next to the scaly texture of the lizard is great. The lizard looks to be a bit overly processed, but maybe the photographer had to do that to get the lizard to stand out more against the tree trunk. As much as I like the lizard to the far right, the photo would the photographer consider cropping a bit off to the left-hand side of this photo? Just cut off, Bill, come on, can you take your
Let me guess.
thing? Yeah, right about there, maybe just a little bit more in. Just like that. But then the lizard would still be off to the left, it would be dead center, but you'd get rid of a lot of the tree bark on the left-hand side. Excuse me. Thank you, Bill.
The title is Wild Iguana by Robert Bansu, 21 points.
Enjoy the minimalist quality and soft colors of this image. The photographer showed a good eye by recognizing the photographic potential of this one grass-like plant on the beach. The image does create a little mystery in my mind. Was that single grass-like plant actually growing on the beach? Or was it planted there by the photographer? Technically, the photographer used a shutter speed that eliminated any motion blur and an aperture that put the plant in sharp focus while blurring the beach. Because the plant is leaning to the right, the photographer might consider composing the image to leave less room on the left of the plant and more on the right. However, the photographer should understand that that's my personal preference, not his or hers. The image made me think that the photographer was spending a gorgeous afternoon on a vast, empty, and beautiful beach. The image helps me see the beauty and simplicity.
The title is Beach Grass by Robert Bansu, 23 points.
All right, this is a good job of composing the bird in the frame, and overall it's pretty sharp, touch soft. Overall, the lighting is a little flat, and maybe you'd process it that way to maintain your details and your whites, I'm not sure, but it could use a little bit more contrast. The background's a little distracting, and this may have been the first and only shot you were able to get of this bird. But if you had the chance and you could get a different angle, I would try to do that to try to eliminate the buildings and the reds in the background. Being red, it just kind of fights for your attention. So if you had the time, maybe a lower angle to have the head silhouetted just against the trees. Again, it's easy for me to say that, not having been there. But if you did have the time, you should have tried a few more angles to see if you could have simplified the photo.
The title is Contemplating My Next Meal by Kim Lonsdale, 22 points.
Spring is coming and we can't wait, especially after today's, right? Photographing flowers brings such joy. I can see why the maker selected these beautiful roses to photograph. That bright yellow rose is screaming for solo attention. Its petals are the most perfect and its angle is the most visually appealing. Our eyes want to go to the lightest areas in the photo, and my eyes are drawn to the white spots at the bottom of the photo. Maybe if the maker would consider cropping out to the bottom with the white spots, it would bring more attention to the roses. The maker might also consider using a tripod to photograph flowers in the future so that the petals are in focus. If the wind is blowing, the flowers will be out of focus.
This is Inniswood Garden Summer Roses by Sandy Tushner, 19 points.
I'm not sure, but I think the subject of this image is a candle. with its lid placed in front of it. So that is how I'm going to refer through this critique. I believe the image could become a striking Christmas card. The photographer created an uncluttered white setting which really helps the red candle stand out. An open aperture focuses on the word joy while leaving everything else in softer focus. Therefore, it seems to me that the feeling of joy is a sentiment that the photographer wants to emphasize. I would suggest reframing the image a bit so that the entire lid is included. Also, I think that the warm yellow glow in the candle actually complements the sentiment of joy, so I would use an aperture that puts the entire candle in focus. That decision, of course, is completely up to the photographer. I wonder if this image, or one like it, will become next year's Christmas card.
The title is Joyful Candle by Renee Lucas, 20 points.
This is a beautiful photo. There's not too much to say. The colors really jump off with the black background. That just really makes it pop. If I were to do anything, I might ever so slightly darken those two pearl-looking objects in the center. Again, we're going back to, and by that I mean just ever so slightly darken that. Again, we're going back to light areas of the photo tend to draw your eye. And partly the only reason I say that is because I'm trying to offer something constructive. But if whoever this photographer is, you might want to get ready to start competing in the regular competitions, because they may not let you compete in the B competitions too much longer if you're making work like this.
It's beautiful. Beautiful shot.
The title is Orchid Under UV Light by Eric Botsky, 26 points, second place.
We're going there this summer. I can hardly wait to go back to Nova Scotia. Beautiful shot. This photo of Peggy's Cove is beautiful. I love that you use the lobster traps in the foreground, which adds visual interest and leads your eye into the photo. There is nothing like a red building to add spark to a photo, especially if the red is up against the blue sky and water. You are so lucky to get such beautiful clouds in the sky, too. And oh, that red boat in the water is perfection. My only suggestion would be to crop a bit off the top. Gorgeous photo. And I said that we're going there again. We're going again this summer. And you actually did a really nice job here. Sometimes there's so much going on in Peggy's Cove that you can get almost too much in the photo, but this was just done perfectly. Beautiful.
The title is Peggy's Cove, Nova Scotia by Diane Glatzer, 24 points, honorable mention.
Photographer of this image found and photographed an idyllic scene that might have been painted by Monet or one of the other French men. Technically, the aperture and shutter speed beautifully captured the light and all the details throughout the image, front to back. The overhanging leaves on top and the reflections glancing ground on the bottom provide a foreground and help frame the image. The rowboat is a dominant feature that creates midground. The trees and their reflections create the background. Together, the foreground, midground, and background give the image a wonderful sense of depth. It gives the pond a pleasing triangular shape. The tree trunk on the left carries a lot of weight in the image. And I wonder if it would be worth dropping or throwing out. I can imagine this image gracing one of the halls of my cabin.
The title is Quiet Morning in Maine by Lance Mayer, 21 points.
This is a very nice composition. I love the way you captured the curls of the neck. Just concentrating on the two in front and having the birds out of focus in the background really adds to this. It gives you a sense of the group that they're in. I would tone it down a bit. I think you have details in the whites, but these look like pink flamingos, and I think they should be a little bit more pink. So if you toned it down just a little bit, or change your exposure a little bit, I think it would help bring out the richness of the color and add to the photograph.
The title is Sleepy by Kathy Pereksta, 23 points.
This photo is visually exciting. It has geometrical design to it, and the angles lead one's eyes down to the depths of the stairs. The play of light and shadows is very effective. I especially like the reflections on the wall from the round chandelier hanging from the ceiling. The light coming from the chandelier is so soft and not glaring. The exposure within this photo is perfection. The maker's decision makes this into a monotone was a wise one. Great job.
The title is Staircase by Jerry Payno, 26 points, second place.
Any viewer of this image will marvel at the beauty of these flowers. The combination of purple of the flowers and the yellow
Dave,
of the
Dave, turn your microphone on.
There we go. Any viewer of this image will marvel at the beauty of these flowers. The combination of the purple of the flowers and the yellow of the background adds to the impact of the image. I can visualize the photographer finding these flowers in a botanical garden and becoming excited to recognize the uncluttered yellow background. Or perhaps the photographer created this arrangement in his or her own home. Lots of credit either way. Credit also for the selective use of aperture to put the primary focus on three of the flowers. It can be really difficult to make one or a few of the flowers stand out from the group. Another alternative would be to photograph a single flower or a small group of flowers that are physically completely separated from any of the other flowers.
The title is...
Wait,
Sorry.
I lost my place, but there's more.
That happens.
An alternate arrangement would be to try to include all of the flowers on the plant in the image. Either way, now I got to find my place again. I would suggest photographing all the flowers in sharp focus, leaving the flat yellow background. Photographing flowers can be a real challenge. It is clear that this photographer has found joy in seeing and photographing their beauty.
The title is Tiny Blooms by Colleen Lasky, 18 points.
Okay, very nice job of focusing on the drops, and I love that blue color. I'm going to talk about cropping again. A trap many people fall in, including people of experience. We all like to print photos, or we seem to print photos and lean towards doing 8x10s and 11x14s, that format. But and a lot of that's because that's the way we kind of see the world, that's the way our cameras photograph things. But that doesn't mean we have to present things that way. if we were to crop half the white off the top, going across here, and lose half the black, and really tighten the crop of this and make this a wide panoramic shot, your eyes could flow all the way across those sharp areas, and I think the photo would have a whole lot more impact. So don't get stuck in the box of trying to, use all the frame in your camera or present things in a standard 8x10, 11x14 format. Play with your cropping, maybe make some panoramas sometimes, because I think this would be a really cool 8x16 photograph, or maybe even stretch it further beyond that.
The title is Worlds Within by Amy Rudowitz, 20 points.
Okay, this is beautiful. The maker's exposure and focus are perfect. One could get lost in the light and shadows and detail within the flower. The background bokeh is shallow, soft, and adds depth. My only suggestion would be to eliminate the two tiny purple flowers on either side of the flower. Your eye kind of goes to them instead of to the flower. They are beautiful, but are distracting. Just for fun, the maker might want to experiment with different crops. Bill just talked about that. Possibly trying a square crop, which can be visually exciting when shooting one large bloom like this one. And what you could do with the square crop then, you could also take the crop and then just try to maybe angle it off different ways, or just try various crops, going way cropping really tight in on it, going out. You have a lot of different options here. You've done a really beautiful job of with the light and exposure on this. So I would try to get rid of some of that green that's in the background, and just hone in on that flower, see what you can do.
The title is Yellow Daffodil by Wendy Kohler, 23 points.
Great
And-
job, you guys. This is really good.